I would like to introduce to you Jacob Margolis. He's the Chief Information Security Officer from the County of Orange. He's been a great partner of ours for years from other cybersecurity events that we have done, and like Russ said, he has a passion for this, and he was very instrumental in getting this one up and off the ground for you guys. So if you don't mind, give me a warm welcome for Jacob.
Good morning. Welcome to Orange County for those of you that aren't from the area, and clearly we lied about our weather that we have here, right? It's not sunny and perfect this morning. Actually, it's kind of nice to have the change. So really, Russ said you get out of this event what you put into it. There's a certain amount of truth in that, but everybody's coming here because we have concerns about cybersecurity. Quick show of hands, how many of you that are actually here work for your organizations, public sector only, as cybersecurity professionals for your organization? Okay, a little over half. So everybody else is concerned about this issue and they want to learn about it and what that impact is to their organization. I will tell you the reason why we want to have these events, why I want to connect this is we want to develop a community of purpose. And you do that by meeting each other, learning what the public sector or the private sector can do for you when you get having the right widget for the right job, right? And you know where your strengths and weaknesses are at within the different communities so you can help each other be stronger, because this is a problem we have to take on together. It's not something that you can handle by yourself. It's not an island. It's a matter of public policy. It's a matter of changing the conversation. Cybersecurity really needs to change from being an IT issue, because most people, I think, would give me a head nod in here. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but most people would think that cybersecurity has to do with IT because it's a lot of patching, a lot of website blocking, a lot of guys like me telling you, no, you can't go to Amazon Prime during business hours, right? But that's generally the perception of cybersecurity. But in reality, we need to change the conversation to make cybersecurity a public safety issue. I can prove it. You can now achieve kinetic effects with a cyber attack. If anybody hasn't seen the movie 0 Days, the documentary 0 Days, that is a very real world example of somebody achieving a kinetic effect or a physical effect with a cyber attack. You can do things today that can hurt people for real from the cyberspace. If that's not public safety, I don't know what is. Not to mention, those of us in the public sector, we collect a lot of information from our residents and about our residents that are within our jurisdictions. We have a duty to safeguard that data. They trust us with their sensitive, intimate details. And because of that, we need to take what we do very seriously about safeguarding that information. And again, that becomes a public safety issue. It's not a IT issue. It's, did I do the right things to protect the information that you trusted me with? And if we can change the conversation to make it about public safety, then our attitude towards it changes, and it doesn't become the IT guys telling me I can't do an IT thing. It's, what can I do to make it safer for the people that live within my jurisdictions? And that's really what we want to do, and that's what we kind of wanted to get the folks here together. That was my vision, to get the folks together, is to talk about those things that matter. How we patch systems and why is that relevant? Why is cyber incident response relevant? Governance, risk, and compliance, these things that we talk about in the cyberspace, why are they relevant to us and how does it fit in? That's what I want you to take away from the conference is, if you don't take anything else away from today, if you don't come out of here being experts on how to layer a defense in-depth architecture, by the way, I still use that term even though I know it's not a correct term anymore, because it will always be defense in-depth to me for the security folks in the room. But I don't want you to just take that away. I don't want you to take away that there was a really cool widget that I saw in the Solution Center. It was, I learned that there's these types of technologies that do this thing for me, whether that's advanced AI on the endpoint or analyzing your network traffic, because you now know that you have to do those things. Not so much that you're interested in a particular product, but you should be interested in the traffic that traverses your network and how things are affecting your endpoints. If you take that away, if you take away that there is a certain amount that's just, I know this is going to sound uncool for the IT folks, but just pencil and paper policy, right? Thou shalt have a complex password, thou shalt not surf Netflix during the business hours, those kind of things. We want you to understand that all of that is part of this mosaic, that as you start applying them together, that you will actually secure your infrastructure. And ultimately, we want you to know who your partners are. Because again, like I said, you can't do this alone. Everybody needs a mutual aid partner. I partner with our local fusion center, the Orange County Intelligence and Assessment Center, as much as I can, because I can't do it on my own, and I don't have enough eyes to look at the problem. And so I establish a mutual aid relationship with that organization. I would encourage you, as you get to know each other today, find out how you can build communities and other meetings that transcend this. Maybe you have a municipalities meeting. Maybe you have a meeting of like IT groups. I don't know what that looks like. That's what we're here to figure out. But I think this is a good first step to getting us all to talk together and start addressing this problem. And that's what I would like to see us get out today, is to come away knowing each other, having some idea what our concerns are, and really having a renewed drive to build that community to improve public safety for our residents. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to George Khalil, who is the Chief Information Security Officer for Riverside City. So can we give him a round of applause? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited. We've been trying to plan this, for Jake, myself, and Joe, for probably the last year. And looking back at our industry in general, our sector, my first connection was AOL 25 years ago. And the first time I went online, I started getting messages that tells me, hey, we're AOL tech support, you need to confirm your password to get on. There is free software that was available that was infected and backdoored that was being, that we downloaded and installed. And looking at it 24 years later, we're still having the same problem. Humans are still being targeted on a frequent basis. Software downloads, drive-by downloads and attacks are still happening. But we're not really, we're doing a lot of complaining, but we're not really doing much about it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. What have we done differently in the last 24 years to change user behavior, to change how we operate our organizations, to really drive change? Well, the threat is still using the same tactics. And if you look at across the different vectors, the tactics are not unique. They're repeating, reusing, and they're still working. So the reason we wanted to bring this conference together is we wanted to bring like-minded people. We wanted to bring in the same sector, the public sector. We have similar needs, similar requirements, similar budget constraints, similar staffing issues, and to try and use, build strength in numbers. We're trying to reinvent the wheel on an organization by organization basis. We have 80 plus entities probably here. We're trying to create policies from scratch, investing significant time and effort. We're trying to put controls, some may not work, but we can try to aggregate our collective knowledge together to try and help each other save that time, reduce that learning curve. And if we look at some of the old reports, and I mentioned that yesterday, if you look at the APT1 report, they're talking about organized divisions of 2,000 plus threat actors. We don't have that resources on our sides. And however, if we start collaborating and working together, then we can get that strength through numbers. We don't have to work independently. In addition to that, we complain as an industry in general about lack of cyber talent, right? How many of you keep hearing and say that? But what are we doing about it, right? We were talking about mentoring each other, try and have the CISOs and the existing security leadership within our organizations to try and build that next generation of cyber talent. Adopt a cyber professional program probably is what we need to start calling it. But rather than complain about lack of talent, let's try and build those talents in-house. What I love that we're doing in Riverside is we're not taking cybersecurity, just like Jake mentioned earlier, we're not taking it as a standalone IT problem. It's every employee that has access to systems that can make changes to our infrastructure, that has a login into a business application, has a cybersecurity responsibility as a subset of their job. Just like someone that drives a vehicle has to do defensive driving as a part of their job. If they have to take care of a vehicle not to introduce risk to your organization, they need to do the same thing when they access and manage technology. They need to be able to do defensive computing and defensive internet usage to be able to protect themselves and your individual organizations. So with that, if there's any takeaway, I think take the message that we have strength in numbers and make sure you collaborate with your peers to share knowledge and to learn from their experience. Exchange business cards and build that peer network that will help us all secure our organizations better.